together gravity, all electromagnetic forces, and the nuclear energy, suggests that scientists since Einstein give credence to this concept of unified force as posited in the philosophy of divine wisdom. Because divine wisdom says there is only one element, only one force, only one consciousness, which is differentiated at all levels. Today, scientists are searching for a world picture even more integrated than a unified field theory. The grand unifying theories or the super grand unifying theories are reaching for a coherent theme that not only relates all the forces and fields of nature, but even suggests that they have a common origin. Quantum physicists are trying to create a theory of everything, a single equation, a single formula that accounts for all the laws of the universe. But this is pertains to only physical aspect of the universe, not the subtler plane of the universe. The concept of interpenetration of universal connectedness found in the philosophy of divine wisdom has reverberations in the modern perspective called holism. The concept of holons and holism are discussed in the contemporary world in many diverse fields. It was first defined as a universal process by the philosopher-statesman John Smuts in 1920. Since then, developed by the Ludwig von Bettelfront, the noted biologist, and extended by Belgian Nobel laureate Ilya Progeny to include principle of self-organization in living things. Holism is common today. It is outworking in many fields today, the best known of which is holistic health. Holistic therapy takes into account the patient's total orientation, total psychological orientation, not just illness localized in some part of the body. Roger D. Nelson has concluded from his research in the Global Consciousness Project that human consciousness can influence the outcome of random number generator. Even output from a computer can be affected by our mind. Now, there are some points of science and its spiritual path. Science has been, for some of the greatest scientists, a spiritual path, a way to connect with and serve the divine. Rightly understood and oriented, it can be so again. The best of the scientists have always approached science as a sacred activity, an activity that could yield the secrets of the old one, as Einstein put it. In his own words, Kepler was, and by extension, every scientist potentially is a priest of God in the temple of nature. On an occasion, referring to the very high quality scientific work of Max Planck, Einstein said, "The state of mind that enables a man to do work of this kind is akin to that of a religious worshipper or the lover. Certain it is that a conviction akin to religious feeling of the rationality or the intelligibility of the world lies behind all scientific work of a higher order." Now here, the great scientist Einstein does not use the phrase religious feeling in any sectarian sense. He means a feeling of awe, mystery, subtlety, and vastness, precisely the feeling one has in the presence of the divine. In another context, he called it a cosmic religious feeling, which he regarded as the strongest and noblest motive for scientific research. This feeling is one of the rapturous amazement at the harmony of the natural law, which reveals an intelligence of such superiority that compared with it, all the systematic thinking and acting of human beings is an utterly insignificant reflection. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science to know that what is impenetrable to us really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty, which our dull faculties cannot comprehend. Only they can comprehend only in their primitive form. This knowledge, this feeling is at the center of true religiousness. In this sense, and in this sense only, I belong to the rank of devout religious man. This is what is stated by Albert Einstein. Now, there is a remark of Einstein that science without religion is lame and religion without science is blind. But when saying by religion, it is not mean Christian religion, Hindu religion, or Muslim religion, but as a spiritual. There is a parallel remark of the Ishwa Krishna in the Sankhya Karika from the 2nd century BC, wherein he says that Purusha without Prakriti is lame and Prakriti without Purusha is blind. In Sankhya philosophy, Purusha is considered something as important unless it mounts on the shoulders of Prakriti, which itself, if left alone, is senseless. All sages have said that true insight naturally flowers into compassion and love like the fragrance of rose. We may therefore recast the statement of Einstein or of the Ishwar Krishna as insight without compassionate action is lame and that compassion without wisdom is blind. Both the direct religious supersensuous perceptions and reasoned scientific theorizing and experimentation and corresponding philosophic abstractions can in principle reside and reconcile in the same person, however rare the actual instance of this may be. One, in fact, senses this very reconciliation in the life and activities of Einstein himself. For him, as for so many great scientists, that the divine was not discovered or proved by their scientific research. The divine called them, pervaded their lives, and gave significance to their scientific activity. Then we may say that religion without scientific knowledge is ineffective, but science without religion perception is insignificant. Sir W. Grove and other great scientists had prophetically remarked that day is fast approaching when it will be confessed that the forces we know of are but the phenomenal manifestation of realities we know nothing about, but which were known to the ancients and by them worshipped. To conclude, divine wisdom is a synthesis of science, religion, and philosophy. This synthesis is arrived at not by method of putting details together, but it proceeds from universals to particulars. Parts do not lead to whole, the whole reveals the part. One of the great truths theosophy brings to the world is the essential unity of the whole of human race, irrespective of color, nationality, or capacity. And unless we recognize this unity and accept it in comparatively near future, we are likely to destroy ourselves and all living things around us. A master of wisdom said that crest wave of intellectual advance must be taken hold of and guided into spirituality. Spirituality, in the highest sense of the word, is possible only after the individual has realized the oneness of all life. An adept said, lead the life necessary for the acquisition of such knowledge, and the powers and wisdom will come to you naturally. By deeper study of the divine wisdom, the theosophy, the super science and art of life, we get glimpses of the true knowledge. By meditation and contemplation in light of this knowledge, a man moves towards realization of reality. By selfless service, he realizes the same self in all, oneness with all. This integrated form of Raj Yoga leads to transformation and mutation of man. A spiritualized science, that is science, co-joined with universal ethics, can aid in such transformation of man. Then the divine wisdom and science both may thus become expressive aid for man to know occultism, to know truth, and to the being of the one that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey. That was an amazing speech indeed, especially about the interconnection between spirituality and science. And as Stephen Hawking rightly said, that science knows less than 5% of the things around us about the universe, and that you rightly added in your speech. Now, as a token of our appreciation, I would like to give you a certificate for coming and speaking on this platform. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
So as we proceed, we have our next speaker, Mr. Venkata. Sir, can you please say something? We can just test your audio. No. You are still not audible. If you can use the chat to communicate with us, we could probably guide you with the audio. Is Dr. Yugandhar in this group? Okay, so we'll take a small break. I'll play a very interesting video for you all. In the meantime, Mr. Venkata, we can sort out the audio issue so you can give your speech after this video.
Hey, Ravi. Yeah, one meeting can get done. Yo.
Mr. Pandey, you can put your mic on mute.
Yes. You want me to say something?
Yes, I was just talking to you actually. I think Mr. Venkata is not here, so I think we can start with the discussion since we're already in the second session now. So is it okay with you, sir? Can we start with the
Yes,
discussion?
yes.
Perfect. So I have a first question for you. So what do you think is the role of science in and spirituality in the global awakening process?
Please repeat the question.
I'm saying, what do you think is the role of science and spirituality in the global awakening process? Can they work in harmony together, or will science and spirituality have to work on different tracks?
See, as I mentioned in the initial beginning talk, the goal of both the science and spirituality to realize the truth, and then with divine wisdom goes a step further to live the life according to that truth and realize the goal of life, goal of human life. Goal of human life is to reach perfection. This evolution is going on at various stages, from mineral to plant to animal to man to superman. So man on this earth has to become Superman. Superman on not in the sense that he can make a very high jump, he can make a long jump, or he can do something, or he can purchase whole property. Not in that sense. He has to be perfect man. Perfect man means all compassion, all loving, oneness feeling, all that. Gautam Buddha is considered the perfect flower on this earth. Perfect flower. Gautam Buddha, Jesus Christ. So Gautam Buddha is the ideal. In fact, about Gautam Buddha, it is said when he got nirvana, he refused to accept nirvana. And he said, I will not accept nirvana till the bulk of humanity reaches my stage on this earth. And it is said in Mahayana Buddhism and theosophy also that Gautam Buddha and some other adepts like him, they are retaining their subtle bodies on this earth. and helping humanity till the bulk of humanity reaches that level. So that is the goal. And this is the science, as I concluded my talk, science and spirituality both can aid in this achievement of this human journey, which is the divine plan. And what is purpose of perfection? Perfection means you have got more powers to help your other younger brothers and sisters who are still below you. That is the whole purpose. Just like Buddha is helping humanity and all those things. So purpose is help to others. God is impersonal principle. God needs agents and managers. And the human being has to become their agents and managers to manage everything in the society and the earth on other planets. So this is the whole scheme of evolution. Man has to work according to the evolution plan. And that is the purpose of both science and spirituality. Finally, as I told you, science is moving towards spirituality, as many of the scientists are realizing. For example, with the advent of quantum mechanics and theory of everything, all this moving slowly. And finally, a day may come that both may become one stream. That is why it is called synthesis of science, religion, and philosophy.
Okay. So you just mentioned quantum physics is taking science more towards spirituality.
Yes.
Can you give us that one principle or the one?
Yes, because earlier spirituality or divine wisdom says that consciousness in life is a real thing. Matter is a temporary thing. Consciousness and life, they densify and convert themselves to matter to create a form for their experience, for their expression.
Mm-hmm.
Now, today, quantum science is saying everything is rooted in consciousness, though they are not able to explain how it is rooted, which divine wisdom explains, but they have realizing, for example, you've got a chair in my room, I'm sitting on a chair. This chair, they are saying, is something rooted in consciousness. Its outer, its blueprint is in consciousness. That's why a carpenter is able to make the chair. And I am able to see the chair because it is conscious rooting. If consciousness closes, puts a curtain behind it, there will neither chair nor I am able to find out my chair. So this is just example. So this concept that everything is rooted in consciousness, which quantum science is saying, this purely spiritual and divine wisdom principle. That consciousness is fundamental thing. Spirit is fundamental thing, and from which matter is derived. Another thing, as he said, that that interconnectivity, interdependence, which is now being realized in climatic change, that even a small change by man at any portion of the globe changes distance, points, and all those things. The Global Consciousness Project, which I referred, this was carried by Robert D. Nelson, a physicist and psychologist in Princeton University. I had an opportunity to interact with him face to face. His research has come out that even our consciousness, even can change the output of the computer, random generation. A computer sitting, a person working on his computer in Hyderabad, in Lucknow, can change the computer output of some computer in America or in China. That the research has come. So this inference is that the whole consciousness is one. It cannot be separated. That is what divine wisdom has been always saying. Whole human consciousness is one. Separation is illusion. It is given only for that individual life to process its evolution. That's all. Otherwise, what I think will affect you and others. Philosophy says even when a particle of matter vibrates on this earth, whole cosmos vibrates. Because particle of matter is also life. There's nothing like dead matter. So every movement is affecting the whole universe. Movement is not only physical movement. Movement by feeling, movement by thought, bad or good, is affecting. The pandemic, according to this divine wisdom, is nothing but the result of the base and coarse thought of human being. It is not some divine curse. From the ages that the human being has become selfish, self-centered, they are creating all sorts of negative thought, and that goes with mental pain, condenses as some pandemic, as some epidemic, as some natural disaster. It says nature is neither benevolent nor malevolent. Nature reacts according to man's thought, as mental thought. So all this now science is realizing. That's why during pandemic also, There are so many groups of global meditation and giving good thought and all those things that will help. But yes, that is too little help at this stage of evolution. When man is dominated by material desire and senses, that is also a stage necessary, and that is what we are passing. Our aim of this divine wisdom and science should be to, just like when I quoted one adept, we get hold of the crest wave of intellectuality and move towards the spirituality, crest wave of intellectualism. Nowadays, young persons are developing very rapid intellectual faculty. The need is to divert that into spirituality. And only point is spirituality to realize oneness. That is the only basis of spirituality, nothing else. Going to church, going to temple, going to mosque is not spiritual unless you realize oneness. Yes.
That's what you said is right, sir. And you also made a distinction between spirituality and religion, which are two different things.
Yes.
Sir, it was very enlightening. Just give me a second. I'll go on to Mr. Venkata. Sir, can you speak something? Mr. Venkata?
I think his instrument is not working.
But he's using several instruments actually. Sir, you'll have to unmute yourself. You're on mute right now. Sir, you're on mute right now. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Who?
No, Mr. Venkata. You are, Mr. Venkata, you are unmuted right now, so you can speak. Mr. Venkata, just show me your thumb if you can hear me. So can you show me your thumb if you can hear me? Okay, Mr. Pandey, we'll continue with the discussion. So I have a question for you, actually.
Let me put on my camera.
Yes.
I was taking tea. Okay. Come on.
Okay. So, sir, as you said, finally, science takes us to spirituality. So, if ultimately we know these principles in spirituality, do you think that we will come to a day when we'll not require science anymore?
No, science is required because science has got its role to play. Science has to only convert to spirituality. I tell you how. Einstein is quoted often. Einstein is a great spiritual scientist. Einstein was a member of advisory council of the president of USA when the research for the nuclear bomb is going on there. But he was against using nuclear bomb. Research he was coordinating. And when the president of USA decided to drop that bomb at Hiroshima, he was very much against it. But president, naturally, everywhere, president, prime minister would override scientists and everybody. So he was overruled. And when he could see the disaster of the Hiroshima bombing, he resigned from the council of the president council. And he said, I repent that I would have contributed in this research. Now I repent. So that is the feeling of the great scientist. They realized mistake. And after that, he never joined in any further research of atomic energy and all those things. Science, I mentioned you the Secret Doctrine book written by Brodsky. Einstein was reading a volume of the book, and he told some of his friends, scientist friends, if you have got a puzzling problem, you turn the page of Secret Doctrine, you may get some signal for a solution. So he was deeply religious person. That religious person in the real sense, a spiritual sense, not religious. He said religious is cosmic feeling. So great scientists, I mentioned David Bohm and so many names who are working at this quantum mechanics. They are really spiritual scientists, and gradually those science, these things are moving. And finally, everything one. For example, the masters, Buddha. Buddha is not merely a spiritual person. He's considered great scientist, great psychologist, greatest psychologist which Earth has produced. Psychology is science. Gautam Buddha is considered the greatest psychologist which this earth has produced. Because whole teaching is psychological. Whole spiritual thing is psychological. Change the psychology of human being. Transmutation, and that is what called transmutation and transformation. So science word itself is good. Only thing is, if we so far the science has been only materialistic science, that was creating problem. And science was coming in opposition to spirituality. Now science is gradually moving away from spiritual materiality and to subjective side, and that's why it's coming closer to divine wisdom.
Okay.
And
Sir, and the last question.
And both will synthesize, both are one.
Okay.
A scientific inquiry is needed in spirituality also. Otherwise, you'll become a blind follower. Andhavakt ho jata hai. Andhavishwas. That is why scientific inquiry is needed. That's why Krishnamurti says in the At the Feet of Master, which book he wrote at the age of 14, that whatever your scriptures say, whatever your priest says, what your tradition says, you should not accept it blindly. Examine it by your logic, by your rationality, whether it benefits others or it harms others. It harms others, you must reject it. Even though it may be by your tradition, maybe in your scriptures, your priest may be saying, but you have to reject it. And that is the way of coordinating with the divine plan. We have to examine, Madam Blonsky said, you have to examine everything by universal thing. That is the test. If you find that that is not harming anybody when I say not only human being, any of the manifested thing, then that is acceptable. If not, that is not acceptable. So this is spiritually pure. Scientific inquiry in spiritual field is also needed. Otherwise, spirituality becomes blind religion.
Yes, that's something to think about. I would like to ask you something in regard to what you just now said. Now, you quoted another scientist who said that we need to rationalize and understand if anything we do, if it affects anyone negatively, we should not do it. But sir, in today's world, everything that's, in my opinion, everything that science actually produces does have an ill effect. Take, for instance, plastic or even the internet or even the advanced technology that we live in currently. So, how can we reach a stage wherein science can completely be positive? Because we are living in a world that's duality. There is positive and negative. So, yeah.
That's why the principle of moderation, which Buddha said, moderation has to come. If I'm utilizing my digital instrument, moderation has to come. If I am intoxicated by using this our WhatsApp message and Facebook and all those things, then we are in trouble. In fact, researches are going on in this area also, how it is affecting the brain, digital work. And I had a occasion to interact with some scientists who is working in this field from South America, and he said that the two hemispheres of brain, right hemisphere, left hemisphere. The left hemisphere, which is concerned with this worldly knowledge, is growing abnormally, and right is not growing that way, which should grow proportionately, right hemispheres. And that is, they have found that is because of much use of this one, digital instruments and digital knowledge, technology, what we say. Because many things which you are get involved in all touch, and we have to react and get reply. These fake messages, everybody is facing this problem. It has become a nuisance. Yesterday I was seeing paper that India is the third largest, that country which is getting the largest number of fake messages. It's getting a lot of damage.
Wow.
And mental plane, which we are not realizing. So at least the principle of the divine wisdom, if we realize this thing, we'll moderate our use. Yes, the digital instrument have to use, but not excessively. Everything excessive is bad. Again,
So as you,
yes.
Sorry.
Then nothing
So
like,
as you said, science is good, but in moderation.
yeah, very moderation. Just like food, if you take even a good food, good dish, excess, your stomach gets upset.
Correct.
So even the best dishes have to be taken moderately.
Okay.
So even that's why our Brodsky Founders Society says your first Viveka starts at the food, at the dining table, how much you are going to eat. If some dish is very nice, very tasty, and your mother is saying, your host is saying, you take something more, and how do you react? If your stomach is full, if you take it, you trouble. You take something, go to doctor and medicine. So moderation of life, moderation in every activity life is required.
I think that is a key takeaway from today's session, actually. Moderation in everything is required. So we'll take a small break here. I'll play a video for everyone, and we can continue with this session. We'll also check in with Mr. Venkata and see where he's doing. So enjoy this video. This is about the work that we do at the World United. Okay. All right. Okay. So I have another video for y'all, and this video is by Dr. Yugandhar itself, and it's a very interesting video. Give me a second while I play this for y'all. I'm sure everyone will find it very interesting and very knowledgeable too.
Dr. Yugandhar, you're not audible. We cannot listen to you. We cannot hear you. Dr. Yugandhar, you're not audible.
Mr. Pandey, you can't hear him. There's a video that's going on.
I can't hear Dr. Yugandhar, please.
I also can't hear. I am Shankar Gar.
It is a recorded talk or what?
Yeah, it's a recorded talk.
But you're not audible.
But we can't hear. No voice at all.
Okay, Mr. Venkata, since your audio is working now, we have 15 minutes before our next speaker. Do you want to give your speech now?
Hello.
Yes. Mr. Venkata? Hello? Mr. Venkata? Sir, can you hear it now?
I can't hear. I am Dr. Gar.
There's a problem today.
Mr. Chitranj?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, you also can't hear the video?
Yeah, I can't. I can see the video, but I can't listen it.
Okay. All right. I think there's something.
The name of my grandson, I am Dr. Shankar Gar. I will talk at 6:50. So just note.
Yes. The session will be starting at 6 o'clock, so we are
Yeah.
having a small break in between. Okay, I'll play another video in that case. Just give me a second, please. Sir, this is a small break time. We have another 10 minutes before we start the second session, that is spirituality and environment. So in the meantime, I'll play a few videos for you all on the festival, the previous festivals that were organized and the learnings that have come out of the festival. Just let me know if you all can hear this video. Can you all hear it?
Yeah, we are able to listen your voice.
Pardon me?
So this is a small break time. We have another 10 minutes before we start the second session, that is spirituality and environment. So in the meantime, I'll play a few videos for you all on the festival, the previous festivals that were organized and the learnings that have come out of it. Just let me know if you can hear this. Can you hear this?
We are able to listen your voice.
Pardon me? All great time. We have another 10 minutes. That is
Hello. Hello, Andrea. Are you there?
Yes.
Are you the
Yes.
moderator?
Yes, I'm the moderator. Who's this speaking?
I'm Narasimha Reddy.
Okay.
I just want to check I'm in the right track.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Once.
Are you able to see my video? I can't see myself.
Yes, so you'll have to put your your video on.
I did.
Do you have anything obstructing the camera?
No, nothing. Now you
Yes,
can.
yes, we saw you. Okay, so welcome everyone. We'll wait for our other speakers to join. We'll start shortly. Okay. So, good evening, and spread the message of spirituality. So, today we have many speakers, and in this session, we will be speaking about spirituality and the environment. A very interesting conversation is the need of the hour. So, how can mold spirituality and spiritual? Now, a small introduction on her. So, Jyoti Shamsundar, in 2010, she was diagnosed with clinical depression and prescribed a high dose of antidepressants that caused a cascade of panic attacks, anxiety, and insomnia. Amid a culture that considered mental health issues taboo, she found herself alone and overwhelmed in a battle to reclaim her health. With a heavy load of skepticism, she signed up for a 10-day silent retreat and unexpectedly discovered the power of sitting with her emotions. She says, I felt like a rebirth had taken place deep within me. I could not put a finger on what had changed, but something had taken a permanent turn for the better. Now, Jyoti conducts research and curriculum development on compassion and human consciousness for colleges. She also contributes to the development of the kindness curriculum that is led by the Dalai Lama at Emory University. She also hosts self-compassion retreats and provides mindfulness training for individuals, schools, and corporates. So welcome, Jyoti, to your session today. Now, she will be speaking on dharma, quantum physics, and climatic change through behavior.
Hi.
Welcome,
Hi.
Jyoti, and the
Hi,
stage is
thank
all
you.
yours.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you so much for this and such a beautiful platform to be speaking on dharma, quantum physics, and climate change. So I was just an hour ago giving workshop on how mindfulness helped me. Give me a moment. I'm so sorry. I have my dog here who needs to be taken care of. So just a minute. Just give me a minute, please.
Sure, sure. Okay, so just to reiterate, Jyoti will be talking about dharma, quantum physics, and climatic change through behavior. Her moment or the change in her life occurred when she found herself uh, she found herself in depression, and rather than taking the antidepressants that caused a lot of anxiety in her, she chose to go for a silent retreat. And that was her moment. That was where she found something deeper. And since then, she's been doing tremendous work in spreading her own understanding of how forgiveness, how compassion can actually help a person. And not only that, how these virtues can help a person fight diseases. So she'll be back quickly.
So we can do meditation meanwhile.
Pardon me?
We can do meditation meanwhile.
Yes, everyone. I think we'll start. I'm just in contact with Jyoti actually. I think we'll start with another speaker. Dr. Shankar Lal. Dr. Shankar, can you kindly unmute yourself?
Pardon?
Yes. Sir, I'll just introduce you. Are you willing to come up next now?
Miss, should I speak?
Sir, I'll just introduce you. Give me a second. I'll introduce you, sir.
Pardon?
I'll just introduce you. Give me a second.
Okay, sure.
Yes. So we have with us Dr. Shankar Lal Gang, who will be speaking on spirituality and the environment. Now, Dr. Shankar Lal Gang served as a professor and principal in higher education for 45 years. He has guided 70 students for PhD. He's delivered keynote lectures throughout the world, and he's also the editor of various science journals. He has got many awards and recognitions. He has planted 32,000 trees on 25-acre barren rocky hillock, Keshar Parvat, over rocks and stones in the last 5 years to convert the hillock into a beautiful dense forest. There was no water and not a single tree on the hillock since ages. However, thanks to his effort, it has changed there now. He has traveled to more than 60 countries. He is deeply interested in spirituality, spiritualism, and believes that God is. So welcome, Dr. Garg here. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. And you will be speaking on spirituality and the environment. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. Pranam to all those who are present and those who are listening. I am very much thankful to the World United, which was established in 2007. And World United is doing wonderful job to awaken the consciousness through spiritual connection. World United is a force to create positivity by bringing people from all walks of life together. All credit goes to Mr. Karthikeyan, Mr. Janet, and Dr. Yugandhar. I am so kind of you all. Thanks for inviting me. My talk, as you know, it is on spirituality and environment. Both are interconnected, means you can't separate environment with spirituality. Where there is environment, there is spirituality. Where there is spirituality, there is environment. In environment, nothing exists in isolation. It is all a collective effort. For example, even if we grow the trees on a mountain or a plain land, then if we plant only a single tree, then it does not grow to the required height. But if we plant two similar trees, then they both grow to an indefinite height. So plants also require that they must be together, just like communities wish to live together. So this is one way. Then, as it was said by India, that I have planted 32,000 trees in last 5 years. And I found that plants should not be planted as soon as you bring from nursery or like that. It should not be planted immediately. Plants should be kept in your atmosphere at least for 10 days. And then you should dig the hole and you should plant it so that they get accustomed to the environment. And that is how the people should also live together. If people from America want to live in India, they are most welcome. But they have to get acclimatized to India. Or if Indians go to say Rome, then there is a proverb, live in Rome as Romans live. So we want that we must get intermixed. And that is the basis of spirituality. You can't be in isolation. Everything goes together, and that is the principle of world united. If you if you hurt nature, then you are hurting yourself. Everyone walks to protect nature, animals, and like that. But how many of you protect the nature? Nature is the ant, nature is the bee, nature is the Ganges, nature is the Yamuna, nature is the Thames, nature is the Mississippi. So nature is part of our life. We cannot separate ourselves with the nature. Therefore, we should be one with the nature. And when we go to the nature, we go to a different world. So people who are suffering, people who are struggling, for them, nature is the best course. We are too busy with our political and social activities. We don't know where to stop. We have even forgotten to love one another. We don't love the earth. We don't listen the whisper of leaves. We are insensitive to waterfall. We do not sit with our backs against the trunk of the tree. I don't know how many people have sat against the trunk of the tree. We have lost sense of tenderness. We have lost sense of beauty. When we plant a tree, we say it is mine. No, plant does not belong to me. Plant belongs to the world. Plant belongs to the whole universe. We say we are building the house. That house is mine, but it is just for your shelter. It is not your house or nothing like that. But in our ego, we say that we live in the materialistic world. This is my property. This is my house, and so on. When we look at the sea, we don't feel it. We don't appreciate its vitality. We don't appreciate its energy. We don't appreciate its depth. We don't even feel the beauty of the wave. When we observe the tree, if you observe the tree right from sunrise to sunshine, so we see that as the sun rises, its leaves are bright. Soon they become golden, and then leaves begin to dance as sun rises more. Before sunrise, the leaves were giving somber feeling, quiet, full of dignity. When we go to midday, there is shadow and we can rest. If we see to the sky, it is sometimes red, sometimes yellow, sometimes blue, and so on. But we never enjoy that one. We are engaged so much in our materialistic world. No doubt, when you have come to the world, you have taken a birth in this materialistic world. You have to fulfill your duties towards your family, towards your children, and so on. But there should be an end to your greeds. Earth has given so many things, but earth can provide the basic needs to every person. The new person born is a gift of God. It says God is still happy. So we must minimize our needs. Since we are not minimizing the needs, we are just running after our wishes or our desires and so on. So we must establish a long abiding relation with nature, trees, flowers, grass, clouds, and so on. Spirituality is in the mind of everyone because it is for purpose and direction of life. Where I come from, where I go, everyone wants to be a better person, and this wanting to be a better person can lead one to spirituality. Something above is known as spirituality. We are made up of body, mind, and soul. Our natural state means everyone wants to be blissful, everyone wants to be happy, but we always go for searching happiness. We go to gurus, we go to so many religions, and so on. But spirituality is in the nature, spirituality is inside us. People say that know thyself. No, know ourselves. That should be our motto, not know thyself. So, spirituality is somewhat supreme science. In Hindi, we can say Paravidya. It is related to Adhyat, Atma. So, spirituality is knowledge of infinity, knowledge. It is a way of life based on belief that there is more into life than what meets the senses, more to the universe, more to consciousness than electric impulses in the brain, and more to our existence than the body and the needs. It is belief in the higher form of intelligence or consciousness running the world, as well as life after death. It is a thirst for peace, mystery, and truth. Everyone is either in anxiety, grief, or fear, or sufferings. So, spiritual connections between human being and the environment is called eco-spirituality. Nature has the ability to be imbued with spiritual power and significance. Forests, lakes, rivers, mountains, oceans invoke a feeling of divine or inspire a sense of awe. It is a resource so that people may convert to generate spiritual feelings. Nature heals our souls, and we do not have problems like anxiety and depression. I can say God is nature or nature is God. But nature does not mean only trees, shrubs, rocks, and so on. But nature is the entire universe where we live. Similarly, we define environment as the surroundings or conditions in which a person, animal, or a plant lives or operates. It is the natural world. All the physical, chemical, and biological surroundings, which include living and non-livings, they come under environment and they all influence human life. One should not run away from the work. We have to live in the materialistic world. We have to make a materialistic progress. But we have to find happiness inside or happiness inside the nature or along with the nature. Spirituality covers subtle, unseen world. It is something like that. To understand the nature of soul, one's journey to identify with the soul and to experience. It is the science pertaining to God. A spiritual path may come through bhakti, devotion, karma, actions, or dhyan. So we should have a sincere wish to lead a better life, This is the principal motto, to lead something better life, to come above what we are living today. So to lead a better life, otherwise all efforts will prove failure. Lord Buddha said, the mind pulls the cart. So if it is in your mind that you have to something do, something above, then you will become spiritual. Environment spirituality is the spirituality that arose from experiencing the divine and through the environment. Environment is the creative blessing of God. We should inspire people to love environment, to respect environment, to appreciate environment, and to regenerate the environment. Because spirituality says that spirituality is the process of discovering our true in ourselves. The wealth of nation is air, water, forest, minerals, rivers, and so on. If every nation is having so much wealth, then its economy will be good. So Martin Luther King said that every green tree is more glorious than the things of gold and silver. We should find pleasure in the pathless woods. Go to the woods and go find out your path. You will find what is really going inside you. Spirituality has got 12 elements. I say it is positive thinking, inner peace, egoless life, love, optimism, harmony, humility, responsibility, compassion, justice, simplicity, and reciprocity. It is not necessary that every man should have these 12 elements. Even if you are having 1, 2, 3 elements, you can go on. Sorry. So spiritual power, if you got it, you can see the future and the past, but you are not meant for that, seeing the future and the past. You have to just live in and go along. Just go along with the nature, and that is all. Traditionally, spirituality referred to religions, but no, religion is not spiritualism. Spiritualism is something different from religion. It is just above the religion. It is the enlightened form. It is the existence of unseen. One should feel that unseen power. It has got relationships, it has got values, it has got life purpose, and so on. It is cosmic, it is divine. Then we say that Earth is more than home. It is a living system. Earth is not just the environment. We are the earth. Environment and spirituality, as I told you again and again, they are related to one another. They are fundamentally connected. In ecology awareness is also the spiritual awareness. For example, I can describe the mountain, but description is not the mountain. If you go only for description, then you will never see the mountain. So here you have to turn around and say, God still has a greater plan for my life. If a problem can be solved, there is no use worrying about it. Stephen Hawking, the greatest scientist of this world, said, however difficulties may life see, there is always something you can go for success. As people used to say, yesterday I was clear, so I wanted to change the world. But today I am wise, so I am changing myself. This should be the spirit. Relax, start vibrating with the nature, and you will be conscious you will be spiritual. It is our responsibility to improve the quality of environment and to get everyone involved. Spirituality comes from inside. It has to be felt. And if you take environment along with, you can feel the spirituality earlier. Nature is capable of arousing spiritual feelings. When we go to trees, when we go to shadows, we go to privacy of that place, then we feel something inside. We feel the presence of a deity. So I like to say that both should not be separate, and that way I will appreciate the World United that they have taken the theme spirituality and environment. So I like to appeal everyone that there are three kingdoms: human kingdom, animal kingdom, and plant kingdom. So adopt a child, adopt an animal, and adopt a tree. If you do justice with all these three, you will be blessed with the God. So this is spirituality. So kind of you for giving me a silent, very good listening. I'm again thankful to all of you. Thank you very much. I hope I have spoken in the
Thank you
time.
so much, sir.
Yeah. Anything
Yes,
people like?
you did. And thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Enlightening. Sir, we'll be having a panel discussion
At
after
what
this,
time?
so kindly stay here, stay on this platform. In the
Okay.
next 25 minutes, 20, 30 minutes for you and the other speakers. If you are interested, you all can become a part of World United Council. Now,
Okay.
Mr. Gang, as a show of our appreciation, I would like to present you with this certificate
Okay. Thank
as
you very
thank
much.
you for being a speaker on this platform, and you have really contributed a lot to this platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. So now we have our next speaker, who is Mr. Subhash Reddy. Okay. So I'll introduce Mr. Subhash Reddy to you all. Subhash Reddy is the CEO of Smart NGO. He promotes site-specific rainwater harvesting to balance the depleting water table, mainly of deep aquifers apart from subsoil and shallow waters. That sounds like a very interesting topic. Sir, today you'll be speaking on spirituality and the environment, the platform that we are on. Mr. Reddy, the platform is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, one and all. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. Here, I would like to connect is that with respect to the water in our daily lives. As we can see, the cities in the rural areas, there is an imbalance of water management. And here I would like to focus a few points where the urbanization is increasing not only in city, even in towns and villages. And we are not taking care of the water issues at all. It is taken granted. It is taken granted, and we are not planning in the beginning how to manage, how to use, and we are depending again on this tankers and new borewells. There are lakhs, there are thousands and lakhs borewells already drilled, and we are habit of taking from the nature. So there is no thought or concern that we have to give back. We have to give back so that, it again gives us back. So this is what is missing with almost all sections of the society, whether educated or, commercial establishments or the farmers or the institutes. And this is not taken care or thought, even by the authorities. So on this, I am working since 15 years. Now, for example, a borewell is drilled. A borewell is drilled, which around 30 years back in 1980s or 90s, we used to get water at 80 feet, irrespective of urban or rural. Now, after 30 years, we can see it is available only if we dig 1,000 plus or 1,500. The concern point is that there are huge buildings coming up. The technology improved, urbanization, growth, development, huge infrastructure, smart cities. So these are all growing. But the point is that what about the water, the rainwater? This is the rainwater which is falling on our rooftop. We are adding roof day by day, and the open spaces, grounds, or as Sir said, the earlier speaker about the trees, which are almost vanishing in our urban cities. So the more the roof added, the more the rain, the more the downpour, the more the rainwater rushes onto the roads. Nothing but floods. It creates a floods. So how can we manage or create a space for the water still, in spite of all this development? Is there any method? Is there any method where we can harvest the water to the maximum into the deep aquifer? Because we are drawing water from the deep aquifer. Like Hyderabad city, unofficially, we are dependent, 50% of the city is dependent on, more or less 50%, on the groundwater. The remaining 50% is from the reservoirs, which are located 100, 200 kilometers from city, which are pumped with power. So both are contributing to the everyday daily needs of the citizens in Hyderabad and surroundings. So how can we ignore 50% of the water which we are meeting through ground, through tube wells or bore wells? We are not giving back. And it is so simple in giving back. Everyone has a huge rooftop, like 1 lakh, 100 square meters, 100 square meters rooftop area. The average rainfall in a year, in a season, is 1 lakh liters. And we have roofs which are more than 500, 1,000, 2,000. So 2,000 means 20 lakh liters per annum. Where it is going? How it is going? Through manholes, through municipal drains. How is the flow? Where is the flood created? How much inconvenience to the commuters? Even a small rain. So I would like to add, I will try to show some PPT if possible. Yeah, hello? Yeah. I'm trying to share some PPT, but I'm not getting it. Yeah. Now I would, you can see since 4 years the Hyderabad how the floods are coming. Some places the water is not receding even for more than a week, and some places even for 1 month or 2 months it's still there. It is all because we are not given enough space for the planning. And this is the result. And harvesting, which is a compulsory as per the law. Even if the law says or not, but we have to do, and we are not doing. There's a huge buildings coming up to many parts of the city, and those are ignored. Even like institutes, which are a learning center, even I would like to mention even our spiritual centers also. They are more concerned about the buildings, the roads, the facilities. But when it comes to the point of rainwater harvesting, that's the last point to be discussed or postponed to next year or several years. This is what happening, and institutes should be the first people to implement such ideas and structures where they can be a model to all other institutions, all other establishments. This is not happening, and I request all spiritual centers to take this as an example or a model. And it is like we are taking a loan from the bank. Everyone has to repay it, and we are taking water from the ground. We need to replenish it through a proper method or properly. And when we don't do that, really we are not good at the nature. And if we try to take 100 rupees, at least give 80 rupees or 90 rupees. There is a possibility of giving back the water more than 100 rupees. Example, if we are taking 100 rupees, we can give 1,000 rupees back also. But if we are not at all thinking about this, and we are all like others who are busy in their careers development from the college to the end of their life, and if we little having spiritual bent, if we also live like them, I hope it's not proper. And whatever we have establishments wherever, see that our campus is made eco-friendly, nature-friendly, and not only rainwater harvesting, all other models like solar and other can be put to use and make an example of that. This is what I observed. Some are following, some are not following, and with such measures, any spiritual establishments must do it. Implement all these alternative ideas, alternative options on a priority basis, and stand as an example to all other establishments and to the people where they can learn along with the spirituality, the nature, how we treat, how we are utilizing, how we are managing. This is what the core part I would like to express in today's conference. This is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reddy. Thank you, sir. And as a token of our appreciation, we have this small certificate for you. So, sir, this is for you. Thank you for speaking on this platform, and thank you for sharing your opinions with us, especially about the fact that we all have area above our roofs which we can actually use to harvest water. And I think all institutes should start doing this, as rightly said by you, sir. Now next we have our next speaker, who is Mr. P. Raghuveer. A small introduction on Mr. Raghuveer. Now, he's a postgraduate in chemistry from Osmania University. He joined IFS in the year 1984 and retired as the Chief Conservator of Forest in Telangana in November 2020. He did his PG diploma in wildlife management and HRM. He's also trained as a CIO from IIM Ahmedabad. He's coordinated APAC networks for better environment with civil society involvement too. He's a passionate proponent of ISR, that is individual social responsibility towards the environment. A regular resource person to several national level institutes and organizations on environment, forest, HRM, and e-governance. Thank you so much, sir, for being a part of this platform today. And sir will be speaking on ancient wisdom on environment conservation. Sir, the platform is all yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andy. I requested for enabling the sharing provision for my system, because the host, apparently you are the host, you have disabled screen sharing. So if you can kindly enable it, I'll be able to quickly go through, because seeing is believing. So I'll just go through.
Fine. Yes, I'll do that. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Yes. Can you share now?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I will be able to. Yeah. I hope you are able to see.
Yes, yes.
Probably you need to excuse me, because I am in some remote village around 60 kilometers from Hyderabad. So internet connection is a little bit unstable. Hope we'll be able to make it. I hope you're able to see it. Even as you can see, also pretty poor here. I'm using my mobile flashlight to at least make myself more visible to all of you. But anyhow, I thought I should take part in this particular conference and then share a few of my thoughts. A lot of things are said much before by our ancestors, but unfortunately over a period of time, so we have forgotten them. So my purpose of this particular session is only to probably try to refocus on those. It's a sort of an appetizer. You can, those who find it interesting can further explore this particular aspect to learn a little bit more. And why we have to repeat is because people, having heard it for ages, have still not acted upon them. So it is upon us repeatedly these things. Okay, I hope. Yeah. Right. Can you see the slide now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. Basically, if you see India, we have over ages several of these ethics for the protection of the environment, and even many of our epics, Mahabharata, Ramayana, or even Gita, Puranas, Smritis, a lot of them, if you study in detail, contain messages for preserving our environment and maintaining an ecological balance. And basically, we never consider that nature has to be conquered, the Mother Earth has to be conquered and dominate. It was always live and let live sort of a principle. So we should coexist. And as long as we take care of Mother Earth, she will ensure that we live longer in a healthier and a better climate. Not only we, the human beings, but also all the other living beings, be it plants and animals. That's the philosophy which we see. And when we talk about the gaining knowledge, if you see in Smritis, when you want to gain knowledge, a teacher can give you only 25% of it, but self-analysis, how you are going to apply that in your day-to-day, that's what my forte is, the individual social responsibility towards environment is. So you gain another 25%. And when we discuss these things with people like you in such fora, or even informally, otherwise also, you gain another 25%. That's where I've come here to learn that. And then, of course, the last quarter is the process of living or following the existing acharyas or new acharyas, or modifying them, deleting them. So there are several things we do on a regular basis. There are so many books on these, the science behind all of this. And that is where you gain the process of living another 25%. And of course, we believe, we Indians, that all elements, everyone, I mean, you see a soul, even in a plant. If you can actually map the aura of trees, I have actually done that experiment in Netherlands. You can actually feel the power of the energy of the tree. I mean, even 30 meters away or 20 meters away also, depending on the health of the tree. So that's something which every living being has got. So we actually look at them as divine things. And if you see, sometimes the environment is not friendly to us. The Gita says, please tolerate it. The better times will come, but don't try to do something silly. And then, of course, we worship rivers, we worship mountains, we worship birds. And then because we see it's our actually feeling that it's all God personified, and we are very, very grateful to the nature. And that's how our way of life is. And then because of this, the God is in all the living beings. That is a philosophy here. So we consider all living beings, be it plants or animals, as sacred. And then our life depends on these plants, the vegetation, because as you know, for your food or oxygen or needs, we need these very much. So that's what it says. And then in case you need to cut any tree, it is prescribed at least 10 trees have to be planted, and that's the principle being followed now. And then before cutting, kindly say, excuse me, tree, I am cutting you for this purpose. Please give forgiveness. I mean, that's the sort of a thing we are supposed to do before cutting a tree. And then, of course, there are trees which are worshipped, like Tulsi is something which is worshipped in every household, even till today. And in temples also, you'll find a lot of trees being worshipped and people tying the sacred threads. Now, as you look at the Vedas, they have, I mean, a whole lot of information or inputs on how vegetation protects us, our lives, whether it is Rig Veda, the verses, or Samaveda on the chants, or Yajurveda on the sacrifices to be performed, or the priests of Adava, whatever they say. Everywhere you can find a lot of mention about the forest vegetation protecting you, and that's a need for us. And if you see the Samhitas, they have 4 Samhitas. You can look at the various books. I'm not going into the details of this, but one thing which interests me is the great forest tract, the Brahadaranyaka, which has several philosophical writings in the Upanishad. I'll be probably ending my presentation with one quote from one such Ishopanishad. But there were kings earlier who tried to establish agriculture settlements and towns by clearing the forest, but of course they have taken care of the remaining forest as well. And if you see the tradition of the Vedic age, a village is considered complete when it has got these vanas, which is Mahavan, which is a protected forest area, and Shrivan. Shri means wealth. So when there is a forest for prosperity, the production forestry is also mentioned there. And Tapovan, where it's a sanctum sanctorum, you can say, and no animal or tree could be harmed in that. So that's something like our national parks or wildlife sanctuaries, you can see. That's a forest of religion. So these 3, Mahavan, Shrivan, and Tapovan, are essential for every village. And yeah, there is a responsibility for the people also in maintaining the forests. And also household, every house should have vegetation, and every village should have a Panchavati, that is 5 trees, each symbolizing the 5 elements of nature. And if you see the irrigation, the water, because the link between man, water is age. I mean, you can see the Indus Valley civilization or any civilization, man used to settle only near the water source. And of course, we need to protect these water bodies And we can plant several of these trees, Arjuna, Banyan, people, Jamun, etc. And the entire Prithvi, we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, whole world is a forest, as we say, and keep the world forest intact. That is what we are supposed to be doing. And then along the catchment area, there is a need to have good vegetation cover. That's what it says. And as I said, if you look at the culture, the Indian culture, the Hindu culture, we have several of these sacred groves. Many places people protect it. Even if you've seen Maflong in Meghalaya, the people there, local people only, religiously protect their forest, and then they even while going into the forest, they'll remove their shoes and go, sort of a reverence they show to the sacred groves. And we do have several of these temple forestry and monastery forests where a lot of trees are protected, and we also treat individual trees as sacred. And a lot of importance about human health, animal health linked to the vegetation is found in the literature, in the ancient wisdom. You will find maybe in the Charaka Samhita, Susrutas, Dhanvantari, Nagarjuna, Parashar, all these people who have popularized the usage of these medicinal plants. And we all know about the Ashoka, Emperor Ashoka. He has planted trees on the roadside. But when we research further, what sort of things he did, he actually not only planted big trees, but also small trees which have medicinal value, herbs and shrubs. If those are not available, he imported them and then planted them, because in those days the health services were very poor. There were no medical shops like these days, every street corner, and there were no transport facility. So people will have to walk miles together, and in case they fall sick, maybe a stomach ache, headache, dysentery, or whatever, they'll have a ready-made medicinal plant available by roadside. Not only that, what Ashoka did was he also kept a lot of water available for the cattle, because the human and cattle relation is there. So cattle also needs to drink some water. So he has provided that. And that's why he is still remembered, although he did the work in 273 BC, even till today in India, right from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, when you ask someone who planted trees by the roadside, everybody talks about Ashoka only, because he was a complete package he has given. There were other dictators, like I've seen when I went to Europe. I've seen people like Napoleon and all. They planted trees by the roadside, but it was with some greedy intention, because they were leaving their house and then going to conquer the world. And they don't know the way back, because in those days navigation by GPS was not there. So they have actually taken up seeds of a couple of species, and then started throwing the seeds along the path they were taking, so that whenever they loot another country and then get the richness, they can bring it back with their soldiers. Or if they want replacement, they send a messenger, they will find the way back to their kingdom. So this was a selfish motive. That's why if we'll see in the Europe and the places where these kings ruled, the diversity is not there much. Hardly 2 or 3 different species dominate the whole thing, unlike in India, where we have more than 45,000 different species of plants existing. So it is also the intention with which you do. The deeds of the kings are remembered. And of course, we said, I've already said, we consider the trees as a god and worship them. And even if you go to many temples, you'll find people seeking a boon and tying a thread. And Parijata, as you know, the story about the fragrant tree, divine tree, which has been brought to the planet Earth by Lord Krishna. This is an interesting thing. Chaturmasya is something, a concept which was introduced in the ancient time. Why? People may say, okay, they were told, don't go to the forest during the post-monsoon season because the gods are resting on the trees and don't disturb them. So idea was this is the time when the seeds which have fallen will be germinating. And they should be given some time to get established. And if people go there or cattle go there, and the chances of survival will be less. So they introduced this sort of a thing, Chaturmasya, So we can keep the forest some rest for it, the natural regeneration to get established. That was the thing. And of course, Nakshatra one is something which was a concept introduced so that at least people who are believing in their birth star take care of the trees associated with that birth star. But as I said, Mother Earth has got enough for our needs, but not for meeting the greeds. So I'm not saying this, it is in Atharva Veda, 5000 BC. I'll be talking more about this Prithvi Sukta in my session in the next 5 minutes. What it says, Atharva Veda is, we shall not overexploit Mother Earth. We should only take that much from the planet Earth so that it will come back. And we shall not pierce the heart of our mother. That's what the Atharva Veda, I think 5000 BC, which would be 7000 years back, it was written. And then population at that time was hardly anything. Today we are 700 crore. And 7000 years back, people realized the resources on planet Earth are not unlimited. So we should be careful. For those of you who would like to monitor what we are doing currently to planet Earth, kindly go to the website overshootday.org, overshootday.org. It will tell you what our human race is doing to sustain ourselves. Because for us to have a ration for 365 days, the Earth Overshoot Day says we have already consumed 1 year's quota in 7 months or 8 months. So the rest of the year, 4 to 5 months, we are depending on the ration quota of the next year. At this rate, they calculate that we may need another planet Earth, which of course is not possible. So we have to be careful about that and be aware. So overshootday.org is the site. You can see that. And then different Vedas, you can say they have talking about why environment should be there for our health, and then what is the role of greenery. This is a very famous quote also. If you summarize it, it says if you are planting one tree, it is equivalent to 10,000 wells. Subhash was mentioning about water conservation. Now you can see each tree can actually help in impounding water, which is equivalent to storing in 10,000 wells. I mean, that's what it talks about, catchment area protection offered by the vegetation. And then, as I talked about this Prithvi Sukta, in detail level, if you see, it says Earth is my mother, and then I am her son. And then we celebrate it for her gifts to us in the form of vegetations. And then we shall never let our earth be oppressed. And hills, the catchment area preservation and conservation, whether it is brown, black, red earth, whatever it is, it has to be protected fully, which talks about a link for this catchment area to the water availability. And we do have this conservation principles enshrined in this particular Atharva Veda. It says earth should remain green, forested, and human race can sustain only if earth is protected properly. And then integrity of the ecosystem shall be maintained. That's what it says. And but you want to use the resources as well, right? Because you have to survive. So what it says, what can you use? You can take only that much which can be regenerated. That's what we talked about, the Atharva Veda, Prithvi Sukta. And then we shall, in the process, shall not do any damage to the earth or abuse it. So the three segments, what we call of sustainability principles of ecology, economy, and society, they're all addressed in this particular principle. And it says the linkage between earth and the water and the soil is very, very well established. So it has given a caution to human beings, kindly don't overexploit your planet Earth. And it says, keep the axe away from the tree and keep the fire away from the tree. And then let there be a lot of rain so that you will get a lot of groundwater, a lot of surface water, and every tree gets blessed. And this is what Atharva Veda says. I mean, this talks about biotic interference not being there to ensure protection of the trees. A lot of Indian traditions, as we can see, are still existing, which are making trees as divinity personified. And we have several tribal fairs where they have sacred forests or sacred groves, or including sacred trees, Ram Sita, Ram Lakshman trees. Several of these things can be found everywhere. And then there are certain royal traditions for protecting the forest, like maybe for hunting purpose or for grazing of elephants or royal gardens, which are outside the purview of the normal people and protected fully. And of course, for also for livelihood purpose, they have taken it. So in these traditional practices, normally a lot of people depend on the non-wood forest produce. We have calculated almost 30 to 40 different varieties of non-wood forest products are taken by the people from the Indian forests, although we have about 150 plus which can be taken. And this is, if done on a sustainable basis, it will be regenerated. And then use of the resources shall be restrained, and we should ensure proper protection and cultivate useful trees through agroforestry outside the forest also. And also maintaining, like several places, tanks which were built earlier are being revived now. So that is something which is mentioned in that. If you look at the Rig Veda, again, I'm just giving you an appetizer. As I said, there's so much of wealth in the ancient literature. I mean, if you dig and interpret, you'll find tons and tons of things. Like, unfortunately, what happens is today, whatever is published in the scientific journals is considered as the truth and nothing much. But we need to understand what people have written already in these scriptures, and then probably validate them. So in those days, the way of living, how it was, how the harmonious living with the nature was happening. And this is what we are supposed to do. I mean, avoid sedimentation of the water bodies so that their life can be expanded. And sedimentation occurs because the catchment area is not protected. So that's a principle of any irrigation department fellow will tell. That's what is the scientific management is all about. And then this is another interesting thing, that water management, it talks about leasing to people or for maintaining them. But again, it is for public interest only. They have to, but the interesting portion is that this fellow who is given the maintenance of the water bodies will have to maintain it and ensure that public gets the benefit. He can't really do any other thing. Closer to our Indian Bishnoi community, the Rajasthan, you all are familiar with the Forest Martyrs Day, which is celebrated on 11th of September every year, because 370 odd people died while protecting their forests. When the king wanted to cut, they said, you can't cut our trees. And that's how one of the famous quotation from the Bishnoi leader, if one has to lose head for saving a tree, it's very, very inexpensive bargain. I mean, that is a attitude. And today, Bishnoi community is regarded as most, what you call vociferous community, which is very possessive about their forests and wildlife. We also have this sort of a tradition from Krishi Parashara, 400 BC. You can see whenever Jangli Pyaz is there, it is a lot of rains will come. So people accordingly plan their cultivation. So this is basically interpreting the nature. And then what we said, Earth is to be considered as a sacred space. Again, I repeatedly say, we don't see Earth as a planet. Earth is our mother, the Mother Earth, Prithvi Mata. So we should see God in the, not only in the sunrise and sunset, but also in the flow of water and the vegetation that is there. And Lord Mahavira, he made a very interesting comment. He says, if you are not taking care of these elements, earth, air pollution, fire, water, vegetation, that means you are disregarding your own existence. That's what it says. Finally, if you look at Mahatma Gandhi, he has mentioned in his writings, he says he's actually thanking our forefathers for making so many scriptures for protecting of the nature and highlighting the religious significance. And yeah, this is another famous personality who is giving this statement. He is a spiritual leader revered by many people. He says, only if we care for it, we can actually ensure that we continue to use the resources sustainably. And we are actually responsible for that because we have to give it back to our coming generations also. Who said this? This is our Dalai Lama. So this is something which has been said. Finally, as I said, I will conclude with this particular quote from Upanishad, the Isha Upanishad. It talks about water. What it says is whatever water falls on earth from sky, that is your rainwater, it should be conserved suitably above and below the earth. Above means maybe your tanks, reservoirs, your rivers, everywhere. And below is your groundwater. Why it should be conserved? So that it is available everywhere for all living beings. This is the word to be emphasized. Today, what happens is man has taken over the water management, and if you see the cities, towns, and all, entire water tanker business is for only one species, Homo sapiens, and entire agriculture, if you see the bore wells, groundwater being overexploited, again is for Homo sapiens. It's not other plants and other animals. We should understand we share this planet Earth with probably another 18 lakh different unique species. Homo sapiens is just one species. So there are 17,99,999 other unique plant and animals. We are not talking about population. Like Homo sapiens is 700 crore plus. Similarly, these 18 lakh other species will be in billions. But all of them also need to survive on this planet Earth, and they form part of a food chain. They're part of our food pyramid. They form the part of the ecosystem. If all the systems function properly, then only we can actually survive. So when we talk about Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu, it is not Sarve Jana as in the human beings, it is all living beings. And that's the reason why even our Indian constitution, if you look at our fundamental duties, Article 51 AG talks about every Indian citizen shall have to perform a duty towards forest by protecting and improving it, towards wildlife, towards water bodies, whatever they can do, that's fundamental duty. And also it says you should have compassion for all living beings. That's what it talks about. And thank you so much, Andrea, for this opportunity of sharing a few thoughts with all of you. It's been a pleasure bringing this to you. I hope technical issues was not there because the problem with virtual conferences is we actually don't get to see the audience reaction, or make an eye contact. So it's like speaking to a machine and then assuming, yes, we are speaking to the universe and then sending out a strong message. That's what it is. Thank you so much, Andy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Raghuveer. Thanks for your message. And as part of a small token of appreciation for you, we would actually like to present you with a certificate. So, sir, this is your certificate here. And this is from the World United, a certificate of appreciation for being a part of today's festival and actually sharing your ideas and your views with us. Thank you so much, sir. Now, yes. So now our next speaker is Poonam Tripathi.
Yes.
Yes. A small introduction on Poonam. Poonam Tripathi is an independent researcher and has a PhD in geography from the University of Delhi in India. Her research primarily focuses on vulnerability as a cause of disaster and not nature. A deep post-disaster research on the Andaman and Nicobar Islands accumulated in the book, The Vulnerable Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which was published by Taylor and Francis in 2018. She is currently teaching as a guest lecturer at JNRM, the government college at Port Blair, Andaman Islands, India. And Poonam will be speaking on the topic, Eco-Spirituality, a perspective on environmental conservation. Poonam, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Andrea. Well, eco-spirituality. So, as everyone's talked about it, it has been defined. Eco-spirituality has been defined as a manifestation of spiritual connection between human beings and the environment. And therefore, this connection is there, and therefore, in environmental conservation, the role of eco-spirituality becomes very important. So, I'll begin this talk with one perspective by Lynn White. In 1967, he wrote this book called The Historical Roots of Present Day Ecological Crisis. And in this book, he blames Christianity for the present environmental crisis. So he says there's a dominance of Christian worldview across, and it is very exploitative and unsustainable, and therefore the earth has become uh, unsustainable over the years. And it is the exploitative attitude of the Christians that has led to this problem. Well, this is a blame game, and I don't actually appreciate it, but well, that's only one perspective. But so if we look into it, what is the real problem? So real problem of environmental crisis is not cutting down of trees or pollution. These are just the symptoms. These are symptoms that we are looking at, and these have become so glaring that there's a need now to look into it. But the problem, what is happening is we are trying to treat the symptoms and not looking at the fundamental cause of this problem. So the first, before understanding conservation, it's important to look at why this problem has become like this. So if I've tried to put it down into, there are three primary causes, and it is a circular in nature. So it's a trap. One thing leads to the other, and it continues to propagate and expand. So first problem is that we humans treat environment as separate. So we talk about environmental conservation, environmental protection, and other elements, protecting the wildlife, protecting the forest, protecting the water bodies, as these are separate from us. So we are on one side, on the other hand is this environment which needs protection, and we are there to protect it. But the thing that we need to realize is that we are part of this system, this unique, broad, large system, and we are placed within it. And whatever we do has an impact on the system, and therefore the surrounding is becoming unbearable to live in. So the problem, first thing is that the first cause is that we identify humans as a separate entity rather than a part of this environment. And then because this has happened, what has happened is we have lost this connect. So we feel we are superior, we are above nature, and nature is there. It is obviously it's in a dying state, and we need to protect it. But the thing is, once we understand there is a connection, this is a link, there is a link between mother and a child. So this linkage is there, although we cannot see it, it's there. Once we realize this linkage, half the problem is solved. So the second issue is that we have lost this connection, this touch with the nature and the environment, and this has led to the crisis. And the third thing is, which emanates from this, is since we have lost the touch and we feel that we are superior, there is a tendency to exploit. And this is very deep-rooted problem, that greed is the root cause. Greed has taken upper hand, and it is, we have this selfishness, we have this apathy towards the environment and towards everyone else. We don't actually think what consequences will our actions have. A simple thing, something like throwing away a packet on the streets, or we just don't actually care that what will happen, where will it end up, and how it is going to impact the surroundings, the way we are living in. So this and the greed actually is the root cause of the problem. So there's this so again the trap becomes, so there is this greed, and therefore because of the greed we again start treating environment as separate being, and the connection which was there is lost, and it just perpetuates. I just like to share one example how this greed has it has harmed the environment. We all know about it, and then one little eco-friendly effort has gone astray because of this greed. So in Odisha, there are sal forests. it's the native species there. And well, thermocol plates were banned. It's bad for the environment. So they said there should be eco-friendly disposable plates we should need. So sal plate was an option. Sal plates, sal bowls, the local people were making it. Now the greed became so high, people started to rip off the forest of uh, the fresh leaves, because the fresh tender leaves are very easy to bind into plates and into bowls. So they ripped off the forest. And again, there's poverty which focus. So there is a different social dimension to the problem. But what happened was, in the greed to make more money, to encash on this opportunity, the forests have become from dense, the cover of the forest from dense has become to open. So this is what has happened. So the trees, the forest there, which was a life-sustaining thing, the lives of the people depend on it, is under the threat now because of some eco-friendly uh, efforts. So whatever we do, if there is greed in it, it can never be successful, however eco-friendly it may be. Similarly is the case of ecotourism, which is abound in Andaman now. Everywhere people are talking about ecotourism, and there are many tourists coming into the place. But again, ecotourism also harms the place, because the moment you step there, the ecology changes. You bring with it the microbes, the other invasive species along, and that has a repercussion. Maybe one cannot see it at the moment, but in 5-10 years time this will be the case. So ecotourism also is being promoted. So the solutions that are being given by the world to solve the ecological problems are also rooted in greed, and therefore this problem is escalating rather than being solved. So these are the causes of this environmental crisis, the root cause of environmental crisis. If you look at it carefully, then I feel that these three are the most important aspects, and these three have led to all other problems that we face, including climate change, the pollution, the marine pollution, pollution everywhere and everywhere else. So then what can be done to solve this crisis? So most important is this chain has to be broken. So where can the step be taken to break this chain? So how can one take? So the crucial step is that there is only one person that we can change, and that is ourselves. The moment we start changing ourselves, we start changing the belief systems that we have, we start appreciating the connection with the nature, we can actually uh, begin the change. And spirituality comes in as a very important tool at this level, because spirituality deals with this knowing oneself, and the moment one knows oneself, we know then it's inherent that we are part of this nature, we are a product of this nature. Earth, it has taken 4 billion years for this earth to reach the stage where we are, and we have emerged from it, and the evolution has taken place, many permutations, combinations, so many species emerged, and then this successful species called Homo sapiens is there now. But success doesn't mean ignoring the others. So this has to be there. So spirituality, so one needs to take good look at oneself first, that how are we contributing to it? What are our actions that are leading to this problem? And if we go back into the time and we see that everywhere, to a enlightened masters, it's very easy to feel the connect anywhere they are. But for commoners like us, we have to go into the lap of nature to realize ourselves, um, to feel the spirituality, to feel the connect. One can go to a mountain or to the sea or into a forest or into the nature and into one's garden to actually feel this connect. So nature, the environment is very necessary to inculcate the spirituality. So eco-spirituality is not a different term, ecology and spirituality, which comes together. Eco-spirituality is the essence. And once this essence is felt, once this essence is enhanced, we nurture this essence within us, then difference can be made into this world. And so what else can we do? Firstly, we have to develop the spirituality within. So ecological crisis can be solved once people become more spiritual, once they start understanding the oneness of the environment, the oneness of the society as a whole. And at this juncture, I'll just share another case study here of marine pollution that's taking place. The ocean currents have created this huge dump of garbage patches in the great oceans. There are 5 great oceans, and we have these 5 garbage patches. And of these garbage patches consist of the plastics, and 80% is plastics, and there are others materials also. So this plastics all have originated on the mainlands. So plastics are produced in a factory, and factories are situated on the land area, which is only 1/4 of the earth. So from there, these plastics have reached into the ocean, in the middle of the ocean. And how has this happened? Because everything is one in nature, so nature doesn't discriminate. So when something is thrown there, earlier it was the leaves and stones and everything, so they merged with the environment. But these plastics, they are there, they remain there for millions of years, and they are harming the marine life in a very drastic way. And there doesn't seem any solution, because if the plastics are picked up from the marine environment, okay, there's a technique from where they can be picked up. But what will happen to that waste again? If it is dumped in the ground, it creates the problem. If it is burnt, it creates another set of problems. So how can this be solved? So this problem is not by dumping it or throwing it or removing it away from our eyesight. The problem, if needs to be solved, then it has to be solved from within. We need to consume less. We need to consume only what is needed. The problem here is that we these days, we can't differentiate between actually what is need and what is want. Whatever we want, we sugarcoat it with need tag, and we say we need this, we need that, we need the internet connection, we need the telephone, we need the mobile phone. Well, life was going on without these things also some years back. So okay, till a particular level, it does solve a problem, it does provide connectivity, it does give. This platform is here. Maybe 20 years back this was not possible, so this platform is there. It's an advantage. But at the same time, what cost are we paying for it? What has happened to the environment because of it? We need to look into that also. And so therefore we need to take responsibility for our actions, and we have to live a very conscious life. Everything that we do, we have to actually be in the moment to think that what will happen. The moment we throw something in a dustbin, at that level also we should just think that what will happen to it, where will it go, and where will it end up, and how will it harm the environment. By simply protesting, don't cut trees, don't pollute, we can't solve the problem. Problem has to be solved at the level of the self. And the last thing that I would like to say is that we need to learn from the indigenous society, which is still surviving. We have the Pygmies, we have the Maasais. In Andaman, we have the tribes here. And these tribes, these indigenous people have lived for so many years, millions of years. They have lived, they have survived with the nature without harming it. They do take from nature, but that doesn't harm the nature. In fact, that gives it a boost and for nature to regenerate. So these are our treasure troves. We have to learn from them. And only once we are ready to learn from them and ready to learn and know our spirituality, learn about our spirituality, can this problem of environmental crisis be solved. Each and every problem can be solved only if we start taking responsibility instead of putting the blame on something and someone else. So I would like to conclude with this, that this earth has taken, the universe was formed about 13.6 billion years ago, and this earth was created about 4 billion years ago. It's taken 4 billion years to reach where we are in this beautiful planet we have. So it's time we take the responsibility and protect it so that it's not ruined for the Because as someone just rightly said, we don't have any more place to go. This is our planet. It's a finite planet. It's a spaceship, Earth, and we have finite resources. So we have to recycle this resource and we have to live here. So I would like to conclude with this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Poonam. Thanks for your words, especially on tribes, and what you said is very true about that. Poonam, as a token of our appreciation, we would like to present to you a certificate which will be mailed to you by the organization. And thank you so much. Now, moving on, we will move on to Mr. D. Narasimha Reddy. I request all the speakers, as you all have been told, kindly limit yourself to 15 minutes. So a quick introduction on Mr. Narasimhan. So Dr. Narasimha Reddy Dondi has been a passionate campaigner. He was a board member of IFOAM Asia, a member of a Cotton Advisory Board Committee and Advisory Council of Textile Exchange. He also contributed to public discourse and policy changes in sectors including electricity, seed, rice, cotton, handloom, and textiles, land and water. His work is multidisciplinary, including agriculture, textiles, water, urban development, and other areas of policy work. He has also built campaigns, advocacy programs, and policy change projects. He's an author and public speaker too. He also has guided the youth, students, and volunteers in their activities, including PhD and other research activities. It's an honor to have you with us, Dr. Reddy, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Andrea. But I have only 5 minutes time because I have another meeting. In fact, I planned we'll be there between 6 and 7, but there was some cushion time. But fine, I want to make my 2 points very clear. Recently, we had climate change talks at Glasgow. It's called COP26. Now that has been a big failure because developed nations which were supposed to respond, they have not responded as expected. And in fact, they have gone back on many of their commitments. Meanwhile, we are seeing in the last 2-3 years the repeat of climate change induced disasters all over the world. And in the last 1 year, we are seeing those disasters striking even developed nations. Earlier there was expectation that these disasters will happen in ocean states or smaller countries like Bangladesh or Samoa Island, Marshall Islands, or even Philippines. But it has struck Germany, Canada, US. Recently, we have seen in the last 10 days huge tornadoes ripping through 4 or 5 states in the United States of America. So disasters striking at will and wherever and all over the world. IPCC report, a recent IPCC report in August, it has clearly said we need to have an immediate solution. We need to move towards the immediate solution, and its report is titled as Code Red. So that means we are in a dangerous situation, and that's what science is saying. So, but at climate change negotiations, we have seen just the opposite. People were talking how to protect their economies, how to continue with the lives which they are having now, that consumptive lifestyle. So that carbonization still dominates, even though the environmental destruction in the form of deforestation, chemicalization of earth, water pollution. There are many n number of issues which are causing this climate crisis. So what I'm looking at is, even though there is a crisis which is staring at us, and on the other hand, people are still rooted to their nationalistic or individual perceptions. So this is where I think what we are talking about spiritual, the spirit, that universal spirit is not coming up. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is one such spirit, and also values which we are expecting, social values, environmental values. So those value systems are not discussed or not on the table of global negotiations. So because there is this lack of this spirituality, which encompasses attitude of accommodating all forms of life, I think that spirit is lacking, and that's so it's on the opposite side. So where everyone is looking at their profits, their consumptive lifestyle. So how does this gap, that huge gap, gets filled up? I think that's a big question which is before us. So I feel this concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam needs to be promoted as a universal spirit in place of nationalism, in place of national economic compulsions and political constituencies. I think in place of all this, we need this universal concept, and that will lead to some solution. Otherwise, people are increasingly going to question injustice on one side, and on the other side, people are going to increasingly become more and more greedy and rooted in their own wants. I think between these two, we need to promote this universal concept, and I feel this conference or festivals like these transformation festivals, we require more so that this concept becomes ingrained into the negotiators' minds, so that mindset change in the mindset is required, and hopefully this kind of concepts will help in reaching that stage. So I'll stop here. I'm sorry, Andrea, because I have other commitment. So sorry. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a part of this talk, sir. And we really apologize for the time constraints. There were a few technical issues that were happening. But sir, before you go, I would like to present to you a certificate from the organization. Sorry, 1 second.
That's fine, Andrea. It's fine.
I'll just put it up. Just give me a second, please. Yes. Thank you so much, sir, for being a part of the for being a part of the panel here, and thank you so much for sharing your views with us. You have a nice day.
Thank you, and thank you all for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have.
Thank you.
Yes, we have the panel discussion which will be happening, but before that we have our last speaker who I have already introduced, Jyoti Shamsundar. As mentioned, she had begun her talk, but then she had to leave due to some emergency. So Jyoti is back here and she will be speaking on Dharma, quantum physics and the climatic change through behavior. So Jyoti, the stage and the mic is all yours.
Hi, Andrea. Thank you so
Hi,
much.
Jyoti. Yes. Jyoti, you have 15 minutes. Yes.
Sorry, I had to leave before because I have a pet and he's been alone at home. So he needed my attention. So he needs all my love and care and compassion. So sorry about that. But I'm back because this is something very close to my heart, the topic. Dharma, quantum physics, and climate change. So it's interesting how my journey started many years ago when I was diagnosed with clinical depression. And the doctors wrote me off saying that you're on medication and that's what life is all about for you right now. And divinely blessed, a friend of me put me into a 10-day retreat. And after that, something had shifted. I didn't know what had shifted, but something had shifted. And I went off into the mountains to do some work, and my practice got stronger. So, and after that, my health started doing so well. I started seeing the benefits. And then I started realizing that I'm here. I want to share this with people around the world. So I started doing my own retreats and started conducting my own workshops and all that. And then I realized in the path, I realized that the path of mindfulness talks about dharma, right? And dharma, I've always been wondering what this specific word is. And in fact, in the teachings of mindfulness, which is also called Vipassana, in the ancient language of Pali, which was during the times of the Buddha, he actually in his core teachings mentions about what dharma is. And we all have different interpretations of dharma. And this is a very experiential path. And in the path, I got to realize experientially, not reading some text or because somebody said what dhamma is. And dharma, all it means is what you sow, so you reap. So you plant a seed of compassion, you reap the results. You plant a seed of anger, you reap the results, right? So just like the great teacher Thich Nhat Hanh of mindfulness says, Dhamma is all about the seed, right? And as you go on practicing mindfulness, you realize that you come to this state of realization that you face all your emotions, negative.
Jyoti, your mic is on.
You kind of heal yourself and you realize that you reach a state where you realize that, oh, this is what I was suffering. And that's why I face these kind of results. And as you heal, and that is what you see around you, right? You see people who used to trouble you, irritate you, but you see them in the lens, through the lens of compassion, right? So things change. It's like beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, right? This making such changes went deep down into the level of biology, into the level of your human cells, DNA, right? That's what I'm involved in the latest research of mindfulness. How does mindfulness help change us to become better individuals? What happens as deep as in the human body, in the human cells? And that project is something which has not yet been done in the world. So we are embarking on a journey which is not only for me, but for ages to come, right? So what happens in our cells that gives rise to compassion, gives rise to this ethical changes, right? So if we are talking about mindfulness, it is really about a self-awareness tool, right? So I started realizing that as I became so self-aware, I started caring more for the environment around me. So now I see people saying, oh yes, climate change, we need to do something. And that's it, that is where it ends. Why aren't most of us able to go deeply and act, produce a conscious action? is because we have not looked deep within ourselves. As our habitual reactions change, we develop healthy behavior, patterns of behavior, we will definitely develop a connection with Mother Earth, with climate change. Today, I can't believe the way I connect with Mother Earth, the way I feel for climate change. I feel the hurt, I feel the sorrow of Mother Nature. And that propels me to act consciously, even if it's in little ways, like maybe segregating your wet and dry waste, letting people around you know. But that doesn't come only from the level of thought or intellect. So you can develop a love and compassionate relationship with Mother Nature when you have healed yourself. Self-awareness is at the core of climate change. This is what Dr. Dan Siegel, the great
Jyoti, you have muted yourself.
behavior. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. So Dr. Dan Siegel said, human behavior is at the core of climate change. If we need, as a collective, as humanity, we need to come together to act. We have to heal ourselves. We have to look inside, and that's the way outside, right? Look at the clear connection. So Dhamma is what you sow, so you reap. So you heal yourself, you look at your habitual reactions, you start healing from the inside, you automatically will start developing a beautiful relationship with the environment around you, right? And that action is from deep inside. I have realized that's a very powerful realization. I have realized that I can contribute. That is an experiential realization. And how does quantum physics come into all this? You know, David Bohm, the great physicist, the great scientist, realized, actually many physicists have been influenced by our tradition, but David Bohm beautifully says that I'm not a meditator, I'm not a mindfulness practitioner, but just reflecting on my own being, I have realized that everything in the universe is connected through energy. That's what quantum physics says. Everything is waves, particles, right? And your body, your inner self, is also waves and particles. You realize that through the practice of mindfulness. And quantum physics has its own laws of nature. And Dhamma is nothing but law of nature. What you give, you get back. You give to Mother Earth, you get back. You give consciously, you get back. So I feel there is a beautiful connection and there is a strong connection between Dhamma, quantum physics, Dharma, as you may call it in Sanskrit, Dharma, quantum physics, and climate change. So if we have to make any conscious contribution to climate change, I feel self-awareness is at the core. If I am not going to realize at the deepest level of my being that climate is important, whatever action I'm going to take is going to be not wholehearted, right? So that is what I truly believe in. And that is the kind of change, realization, mindfulness can bring about, right? So this is what I would like to say and end my talk here. I hope I could contribute in some way. And thank you so much for your patience, for being with me. And thank you, Andrea, for making this happen at last. Thank you. All of you be blessed.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jyoti. And especially when you said self-awareness is at the is at the core of climatic change. Very inspirational indeed, and it gives us a lot to think about actually. But yes, so true. Thank you so much. Jyoti, as a memento of our appreciation, you will be given a certificate for being a speaker here. And thank you so much once again for being a speaker on this platform. So we have three speakers here, and since we are running short of time, I'll directly dive into the discussion session. You all can all turn on your mics. So the first question that I have for everyone here actually is the topic today is environment and spirituality. Now, many of the speakers here have spoken about how India has such a rich rich connection and rich tradition when it comes to the environment. We have sacred groves, we have so many other things. We have our aborigines who have been there living with the environment for countless centuries actually. But sadly today what we lack is the basic understanding of preserving the environment. Like yesterday, I was traveling from Goa to Bangalore, and I saw two different instances. People just throw their cups out of their vehicles without giving a clue or giving a thought to where that cup, those plastic things are falling. So what I would like to ask you all is, in spite of India having such a strong, deep, meaningful relationship with the environment, why do we see that in the India today, our environment is disregarded to such blatant levels, be it mining, be it personally people just flinging plastic outside of their windows and anything? Why do we have this change? And us here as people talking about spirituality, can we change this concept in India? Anyone, it's open to all three of you.
I think I would like to come in, Andrea. I know I just finished, and I agree to what you say. It's become like a scene where I see almost every few days I see people throwing things around. So it goes back. I have contemplated on this. A tradition, a civilization with such rich heritage, where our ancients were so close to Mother Earth, right? What has happened? I contemplate on what has happened. Where has evolution gone wrong? So, personally, what I would like to say is, again, it comes back to how are we going to change this? Well, through helping people become self-aware, self-realization, no matter what kind of probably path you take, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's through sessions, different kind of sessions and different kind of practices, or any other way. I think it's very important for people to realize from the inside, why is this connection to Mother Earth important? Right? For them to realize, how am I connected? We're all interconnected. And until people realize this interconnection very deeply, we won't be able to see profound changes. And mind you, this just change is not going to come overnight, right? This has taken many not eras, but probably decades for us to disregard, Mother Earth and bring pain to Mother Earth. Well, the change is going to start slowly and it's going to take time, but I'm so hopeful that with practices like mindfulness or any other practices or self-awareness tool, I think we can definitely bring about change, because people who have become self-aware, I see a very, very, even if it's a small, but a good beginning change of how they relate to environment. Maybe even if it's a cutting of a small tree, a neighbor who was all ready to cut a tree 2-3 years ago now is reluctant because they have, it's in my own neighborhood. They have realized how valuable it is to have a tree which provides so much, right? So something in his life has affected him deeply for him to realize this connection. So I think with self-realization, we can do wonders slowly, steadily. That's what I feel. I hope that makes sense.
Andrea, you're muted.
Yes, yes. Mr. Reddy, thanks, Poonam. Mr. Reddy has dropped off. I hope he joins us again. But Poonam, in the meantime, would you like to add something more to this?
Jyoti has said it all. Like, what we need is mindfulness, and that will bring in the change. Because I hear people saying that, what can my action do? It's such a large global scale issue. So my only thing is that we have created these global issues because individual actions have created this total effect there, and therefore this will also, if we all are together in it, we can at least we can get it back. I'm so sorry, my son is really troubling me.
It's okay, it's okay.
And so,
No
Poonam, I
problem.
have my dog who is troubling me. So he's like looking for attention. So it's your son in your case.
Yeah. So, but
Okay.
yes, if we all can come together, if everyone can be mindful and aware and do their bit, then I think the change will come. Because if we have reached to this space, we can also create a difference. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Poonam. Another question that I have is, can spirituality reverse climate change?
Yes, it can, definitely. Definitely. That is the only answer. Only spirituality can reverse this change. This is what my
Okay.
belief is.
How? If
See, as I said, if we become self aware, then the connection between this environment with nature will improve. We will realize that we are part of the system. And if we own it up, we will not harm it. That's the simple relation. If we have it, if it is we clean our house, we don't like to throw things in our house here there. So if we can own it up, if we can, and this thing cannot be said, we can't just say that we are part of the system, we are environment, we are the environment. No, we have to realize, and that realization can come only through spirituality. Otherwise, it's only verbal, it's only thoughts, and it's only in the books. So to ingrain it, to actually own it up, spirituality is the key. This is the only key.
Thank you, Poonam. Jyoti, would you like to add something to this?
This time I have to say Poonam has said it. I think it is about, there is no other way, Andrea. The way is only within, right? If we don't look at our habit patterns, I have to tell you this, a few years ago, I have a couple of friends who are environmental activists, animal activists. This made me wonder that there was so much anger in her, that they were, cutting down trees, they were doing this to nature, that. And over a point, she couldn't actually continue as an activist because she fell sick. And she realized that because of all this anger, you know, uh, uh, annoyance, she fell sick and she couldn't continue. And this actually brought a very important question into my mind, that if you have not dealt with the anger inside of you, okay, so much, how are you going to help other people realize, truly realize that we are connected to nature? Yes, important to become angry, but if your anger goes so deep that you hurt yourself, you are no way going to help nature, because you are connected to nature. So I feel this is where spirituality comes, that you heal the climate by healing yourself. We need to understand this. With a lot of anger, with a lot of annoyance, with a lot of stress, we can't help climate change. People find it very radical, sometimes. This is what even science is saying. Dr. Dan Siegel in Garrison Institute in the US, top of the world's philosophers, scientists, educationists, environmentalists came and he challenged that whatever he's going to talk, that whatever he would talk that day, anybody would challenge him, right? He was ready to debate. And he gave such a mind-boggling evidence that how we are connected through our brain, through our nervous system, to climate, to the entire climate was amazing. It left everybody spellbound. Some probably even angry because, some philosophers didn't like what he said, but there was the evidence. And it had taken decades for him to do that research. And he said, if you are not going to heal yourself through any modality, right, through mindfulness, yoga, or some self-reflection practice, where is this true change towards climate coming from? How are you going to even tell your children what is truly working for climate, right? That means compassion. Let's start with compassion for the pets we have, right? For the human beings around us, right?
True. Jyoti, and in continuation to that, so now you all said that, yes, spirituality can reverse climatic change, grassroots level. If we want people to implement two practices that would directly help, that would directly help with their spirituality, and then, of course, it would help with climatic change. What are those two practices that you all would recommend for a person? Or what are the top two? I would say, what are the top two practices according to you personally that you would recommend?
Mindfulness and compassion, Andrea.
Makes sense.
That's what I've been on for life. So it's a self-realization. And that's how I have come to connect with climate. So any day, the practice of mindfulness and compassion, self-compassion actually, start loving yourself, and the love towards others and the environment starts working, starts showing up. So these are the top two practices, I would say.
And Poonam, what about you?
Yeah, of course, mindfulness, and another word for it is live consciously. We should, whatever actions we are taking, we should remember that it has a reaction to it. We should be aware of our actions, and even a little action like something, throwing a cup out of a car window, will have its repercussions. So we should be really living in awareness.
Very true. Very true. Thank you so much, Poonam and Jyoti. I'm just checking if there are more. It's 8 o'clock, and I think we'll wind up for today. Thank you so much for shedding light. And personally, for me, it really has been an amazing session because we have Dr. Yugandhar who's connecting. So let's ask him if he has any questions for us. Dr. Yugandhar, do you have any questions for our speakers? Just give me 1 second. Let's just try to connect with him. Dr. Yugandhar? Okay, so we have two new attendees, Shami Chabra and Dr. Yugandhar. I would like to ask our audience to, so we are talking about spirituality and environment. We have two speakers here, Jyoti and Poonam. Any more questions for them? We have spoken about spirituality, can it reverse climatic change, about the traditions that we have in India. Shami Chabra, do you have any questions for our speakers? Dr. Yugandhar, any questions for our speakers?
I have just joined, ma'am. I've just joined.
Okay. So yes, so Shami, we are basically talking about spirituality and the environment. And two speakers gave us talks about how it can actually reverse the environmental issues that we have right now, because the main issue would be consciousness. We consciously practice our lives, that itself would influence the environment around us.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so I think there are no more questions. Thank you so much, Jyoti Shamsundar and Poonam Tripathi. Thank you so much for joining us and being speakers. Thank you so much, Mr. Chabra, for also joining us here at the session. It's been a pleasure. I'm Andrea D'Souza. It's been a pleasure moderating this session. Have a nice Sunday and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you to every one of you. Be loved and be blessed. Thank you.
And say hi to your baby and hi to your pet.
Yes,
I have
will.
a pet too, so I can so understand your situation.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank
God bless you. Have a nice day, everyone. Thank you.
Yes.